What's up YouTube, I'm Lamb Trades, and today I'll be taking you through my watch list for the week of March 26, 2021. If you're new here, this is my weekly watch list video that I show what stocks are at the top of my list to watch out for this week. Make sure you stay to the end of the video to see what my favorite play for the week is, and if you want to keep up to date with my trades and follow along with what I'm doing during the week, I'll leave my Discord link in the description where you can join and see what I'm looking at every single day. Now, let's take a look at the economic events we'll be watching this week. This week will most likely be crazy for the markets as we do have many important things happening. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we have Powell and Yellen testifying before Congress on COVID reliefs and the economy. This will be very important as they'll be commenting on how they think the economy is recovering from what has happened and what their outlook is in the future. So we'll want to pay attention to that. On Thursday, we have initial and continuous jobless claims. And then on Friday, we have personal income, consumer spending, and core inflation numbers. Three things I would really pay attention to is Powell speaking, those job numbers, and core inflation. But for now, let's go over what we saw in the markets last week. Monday and Tuesday were very boring as we consolidated for the majority of both days. Things instantly changed on Wednesday when we had Powell speak. At this point, things were very bullish because what the Fed had to say in relation to the rising bond yields and inflation. Powell said a lot, but I'll break down the most important things. To start, the Fed will not increase rates until 2023, which I do think is very unlikely, but that's beside the point. The market has been wanting clarification of the rising bond yields, and Powell said inflation is under control and the rise in yields is relatively healthy. He expects the Fed to continue asset purchases, which provide a strong support to the economy, and he gave clear targets that he is watching for before raising rates. These include inflation holding above 2% and our economy reaching maximum level of employment. He was adamant on waiting until all requirements are met before even thinking about raising rates. As you can see, this was very bullish for stocks as we pushed almost 1% in the matter of minutes on Wednesday after he said this. However, all of this talk about inflation is not positive for bonds. Right now, nobody wants bonds because of the inflation that we're expecting. If the Fed is expecting inflation to run above 2% over the next few years and you have a bond that gives a yield of under 2%, theoretically you are losing money. Because of this, bonds went down, and when bonds decrease in value, the yield increases, which is exactly what we saw. The 10-year gapped up to an astounding 1.74% on Thursday morning, which freaked out the market. And because of this, we saw an almost 2% pullback on the S&P 500, giving up all the gains from the day before. Then again on Friday, yields increased in the morning before leveling out, which is why we saw this temporary sell-off. The market closed kind of flat, and I'll be very curious going into next week as bonds mostly control the market right now. And until they chill out, it's very unlikely that we're able to push higher. As for next week, it's very important to keep an eye for those job and inflation numbers, with Powell's criteria for that rate increase being centered around the job numbers and inflation data. I think those are the types of data that will really have an effect on the market. On a technical side, I do think that it is bullish that we closed above that 200 SMA on the 4-hour. However, in my opinion, most of the moves this week were very fundamental and based on news and data, so I will be sure to be keeping an eye out on the job and inflation data this week and watching what Powell says. This week will be even more crazy than the last, so as always, don't risk more than you're willing to lose, and the Discord is in the description. Join so you never miss out on what is happening in the markets. Now, let's go over the plays we were watching last week. The first play we were watching was BABA. We were watching for a bounce off that 225 support for a potential long-term pickup and a short-term trend. We got both as we were able to add to our long-term position in that 225 range while playing the short-term bounce. This was a beautiful play that played out perfectly. I'll be watching for a retest of that 200 SMA and resistance at around 250 a share. Depending on what it does there, we could continue to 270, and if we're able to break that 270, I do think we can get back up to that $300 level. However, it's key that we're able to get above that 200 SMA, indicating that we are in a uptrend. The next play we were watching was on Square. Now for Square, we were watching for a push up above this 246 resistance, hopefully continuing to that 256, which we did get. However, we stalled out around 53 and unfortunately headed back down. Square was unable to make a higher high off of this push upward, and this may indicate that we are in a downtrend. We have the all-time high, we made a low, we then made a lower high, lower low, and now are again making a lower high. The only thing that I can see is we do have this support trend line that was used earlier in the month and not as much used during that big tech pullback. However, if we break below that support trend line, I do think we will fall to this $200 level. So I will be watching for that. And the final play that we were watching was GDX. This play was perfect as we called out that entry on the $35 call contracts for $170 a piece last week. We exited half of our position this week at $230, giving us a 40% gain to lock in some profits. I did call both of these out, the buy and the sell, in the Discord, as I have been doing this for quite some time, so if you want to check that out, links in the description. I do still like this play as we were able to hold above that 200 SMA on the 4-hour. And the next level to really watch out for is that resistance trend line at $36 a share. So I will be watching for us to hold above that 200 SMA, and if we're able to, I do like the chances we retest 36. Now let's go over the stocks I'll be watching this week. The first stock I'll be watching is TDOC. As you can see, TDOC has really been beat down the past couple of days, and we're looking for a bounce off of this support level. With stocks like this, it's very unlikely to see one exact point used as a support, so we look to find support zones, which is around that $180 to $170 level on TDOC, which has been used before. Now, we do want to realize that we have been consolidating around this previous resistance trend line, hopefully turn support, and I do like the chances of it bouncing. If we look at the daily time frame, we can see MACD is crossing, which indicates that we are seeing a reversal. This is bullish, so I will be watching TDOC over the next few weeks as we hopefully will see a bounce and retest of that 200 SMA and resistance at $230 a share. The next play I'll be watching is Boeing. Boeing has been a real leader as we are seeing a rotation out of tech and into those value names. As we can see, we had that resistance trend line on Boeing that we did previously break last week. After a pullback to the trend line, if we go in a little closer, we can see it was used as support twice, indicating that we could have turned this resistance into support and hopefully push higher on Boeing. I think this will be a great opportunity to play Boeing to the upside, as it still has a long way to go before fully recovering to all-time highs. It has been shown a lot of love with this rotation into value, and I will be watching Boeing to hold this trend line, as it will most likely serve as a great support level. Now that I look at it, we could also be seeing a descending triangle playing out, so I would watch to see if we can get a break of this resistance. However, with only 2 points, it's not too reliable, as I would like to see it touch at least 3 or 4 times. But if we reject on Monday and pull back to this support, I think Tuesday could be a real day to see if we could break out or break below. So I'll be watching for that on Boeing. And my final and favorite play for this week, you guessed it, is DraftKings. This week, we saw DraftKings hold up even with a massive growth sell-off on Thursday and Friday. This has to do with the March Madness hype associated with sports betting, and it also has been holding this support trend line. I have been adding onto the stock since the 30s and will continue to add, as my price target on it is way over 100 in the next 5 to 10 years. I think this 74 level is key, and if we're able to break above it, we could really begin to run. With March Madness lasting for the next couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if we can get some positive data come out on how much has been wagered or things like that. If we do get a break below the support trend line and $70 support, we most likely will see a pullback to the $67 level. So make sure you have a stop loss set or are prepared to the downside as well. But I do like the chances of DraftKings pushing above 74, and if not, it just gives us a better opportunity to add to that long term. So I will be keeping an eye out for that this week. Another play that we could keep an eye out on and has been attracting my eye is Apple. The reason for that is we are seeing a possible inverted head and shoulders on Apple, which is playing out. If we look, we can see the shoulder here. then the head, and another shoulder here. In order to confirm this, we would want to base out and push up this week, as this is the bottom of the left shoulder, so hopefully it would play out the same the right. We would then retest that 127 resistance, and if we are able to break, I think we could break out and hopefully begin to see some movement again on Apple. Apple really has been a slow mover over the past couple of weeks, so hopefully the breakout of this trend could be positive for the stock. I'll keep my eye out on that, and it could be a possible play for next week. But that is all for today. I hope you guys are prepared for this week, and if you did watch until the end, please like and subscribe, as I do put a lot of work into these videos. If you want day-by-day updates on my thoughts about certain plays, or just have a question, feel free to reach out to me in the Discord below. I hope all of you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.